We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Facebook announced its plans to alter users' news feeds yet again on Tuesday in a move that will allegedly provide the right mix of updates from friends and news pages. In a post entitled Newsfeed FYI, Balancing Content from Friends and Pages, the Facebook product manager and user experience researcher lay out how media content will be altered under the site's newest algorithm. Media content is a key part of the experience for people on Facebook, and we're committed to helping publishers find the right audience for their content, the article states. A mere footnote at the end of the article also admits that the new change could negatively affect a page's reach. Earlier this month, in an article from the Columbia Journalism Review, Freedom of the Press Foundation Executive Director Trevor Timm criticized Facebook's growing power over online news. Go to Infowars.com and read Facebook changes newsfeed algorithm to affect media content.
Introducing Secret 12, the new InfoWars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12, methylcobalamin, the same kind used in B12 injections, and adenosylcobalamin. Secret 12 is simply taken by mouth, right on the tongue, and then swallowed. No needles, no injections. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here. For the last 2 years, I've been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to design a nutraceutical formulation that has truly life-changing health benefits. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. Visit InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139. That's InfoWarsLife.com. What lies at the heart of InfoWars and everything we do? At the core is fellow human beings of every race, color, and creed across the United States and the planet that believe in personal liberty. And it's people like you that have promoted the radio broadcast to their friends and family. It's people like you that have bought the high-quality products at InfoWarsStore.com that have made everything we do possible. And that's why I want to salute you. You have helped us build this operation. You don't stand beside us or behind us or even in front of us. You stand at the heart of InfoWars. That's why in the month of April, we're offering some of the biggest specials yet to introduce listeners to these high-quality nutraceuticals at InfoWarsLife.com. 50% off high-quality colloidal silver bullet. Buy 2 X2 Nascent Iodines. Get 1 fluoride shield absolutely free and free shipping. 50% off Silver Bullet. Free shipping. Free bottles of Fluoride Shield Detoxer. Find the specials at InfoWarsLife.com.
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. I want to get back to this article and show you how things have changed since this article exposing the problem in Wired Magazine back at the beginning of February, and then one that came out yesterday showing the response of John Deere and GM, exactly what they're telling the government, the Copyright Office. Now, as I was pointing out in the last segment, he was talking about how he was trying to help his neighbor fix his tractor that kept breaking. He has a site called iFixit that helps people to do it yourself. And of course, that is the tradition of people who live on farms. They don't have the money to go out and hire people to fix each and everything, so they just fix it themselves. That's been the tradition. As he pointed out, they use baling wire and duct tape, but he goes, now regulations are stricter, he said. Agribusiness is much more consolidated. The equipment is proprietary. Well, you know, I think there are some uses still in this kind of environment for duct tape. Maybe we can use it as handcuffs on the regulators. But seriously, we need to look at what they're really doing. They're actually outlawing ownership. This is a war on private property, just as much as civil asset forfeiture is a war on personal property, on property rights. That was something, we talked about that at great length yesterday, where the government in 1986, Ronald Reagan, with the excuse of fighting the war on drugs, said, we're going to just we're going to confiscate property. We're going to charge it civilly. We're not going to do a criminal process. Therefore, you don't get any legal representation. Nothing in the Constitution applies because, of course, we're charging the property itself with the crime. So they've been confiscating property. And if the government can do that, if the government can come in and just say, well, I think that your cash may have been used in some kind of a drug business, because of all the cash, essentially you can find traces of drugs on all the cash. They can use that to confiscate anybody's cash. They can use it to confiscate any of your property. But of course, the other thing they can do is they can come in with lawyers, and not the police on the road. They can come in with lawyers, and they can write out our rights using these copyright acts. And that's really where we're going to see the big effect, a big effect of the Trans-Pacific and Transatlantic partnerships. And I just want you to see what the mindset of the government and the corporation is right now. So in this particular instance, he's talking about how they cannot even get in to work on this without a password. They have to come up with a hack to get into their own tractor, into their own property, even though this guy has paid $100,000 for it, or is paying $100,000 for this tractor. So, of course, there's been a hacking community that started up. He says there's a thriving gray market for diagnostic equipment and proprietary connectors. He said, of course, a lot of people go out and they'll purchase a laptop from some nameless friend of a friend with a software that's already loaded on it, okay? Because under modern copyright laws, that kind of quote-unquote repairing is illegal, or at least legally questionable. And it goes back to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in 1998, which classifies breaking a technological protection measure over a device's programming as a breach of copyright. So if they put a password on this John Deere tractor, you are in violation of their new copyright laws. So, of course, a lot of them are going open source. A lot of them are creating their own equipment. But this is what he had yesterday. He says, we cannot let John Deere destroy the very idea of ownership. And, of course, John Deere is just one of many corporations. It's also General Motors weighing in on this. And you will see what happens with these quote-unquote free trade agreements. That's exactly where they're going. Now, this is what John Deere said. They said farmers receive an implied license for the life of the vehicle to operate the vehicle. How about that? And this guy points out, he says, over the last 2 decades, manufacturers have used the DMCA to argue that consumers do not own the software that's underpinning the products that they buy. Things like smartphones, computers, coffee makers, cars, yes, even tractors. Look, if you're going to have the smart home, quote-unquote smart home, if you're dumb enough to buy into that, where everything can be monitored, that every one of those devices is a spying device for you. Of course, it was Petraeus who bragged about the fact that your toaster was going to be spying on you. When we reported it, everybody said, you're a bunch of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. Well, he said it. You can see that it's now true. But here's the other aspect of it. Not only will they spy on you, slave, they also maintain that you don't ever own your smartphone, your computer, your coffee maker, your refrigerator, okay? Somebody may break into it and hack it and start sending spam out of your refrigerator, the electronic kind. But you will never own that stuff. Now, this is what John Deere is arguing. They say that allowing people to alter the software, even for the purpose of repair, would, quote, make it possible for pirates, third-party developers, and less innovative competitors to free ride off of their creativity, unique expression, and ingenuity. They are trying to shut down all ingenuity. You can see this in the music industry where they go back and patent happy birthday and shut down people's YouTube videos because you've got happy birthday on it. They don't want anybody to own anything. They assert that they own everything. And then they make this incredibly ridiculous argument. They say permitting owners to root around in a tractor's programming might lead to pirating music through the vehicle's entertainment system. They actually said that. They said that you might pirate music using your tractor if they allowed you to actually work on your tractor. And understand, this is the cutting edge. This is where it really is starting, and that's with the companies like Sony, who is music as well as movies. They have been the leading edge on all of this insane copyright extension. And they are very much involved in the TPP, as we can see from some of the leaked Sony emails we'll talk about later. That this is now what GM said. And remember, there was an exemption to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act for vehicles, personal vehicles like cars, and they want to get that removed. But GM said this, told the Copyright Office, that proponents of copyright reform mistakenly, quote, conflate ownership of a vehicle with ownership of the underlying computer software in a vehicle. Now, if you went to the Chevy dealer and you said, I want to buy this vehicle, and they say, fine, but, you know, we're going to retain ownership of the steering wheel. We're going to retain ownership of the brakes as well as the engine. You know, we're just going to control that for you. That's essentially what they're doing with the autonomous cars. But that's how useless your car is if they take out the computer now, because it is so interwoven throughout the operation of the car that it's the same as saying you don't own the steering wheel, you don't own the brakes, and we still do have those things in our cars. So basically what they're doing is they're making these activities illegal, and if you want to do something about it, the people that are fighting this now, that are trying to stop this increasing copyright infringement, are the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Intellectual Property and Technology Law Clinic, and the Digital Right to Repair Coalition. You've actually got to come up with a coalition that says, hey, I can repair the stuff that I thought I owned. But if these trade agreements go through, that's going to be all out the door. All out the door. One example of this, of course, they say it's going to be a boon for agriculture. It's going to be a boon for big agri. It's going to be a boon for GMO. And right now we can see what's happening in Hawaii. There's been efforts, of course, to try to get labeling for genetically modified organisms and plants labeled in the food that you buy. They've fought that, of course, with the lobbyists. Where they have had success is going into farming communities where they understand how the growing of the GM crops is destroying their crops. A lot of farmers have heirloom crops. They have organic crops. And these GMO crops are essentially a trespass on their farms. They're very angry about that. Something that they work very hard to produce. It's a premium product. And so they have had success in going into several farming communities where the people already understand the problem and they can't be blindsided by a lot of advertising propaganda from the big corporations. They understand the product. They understand the problem. And this happened in Hawaii in the last election. It was a very small amount of money that was spent there. And basically what they were doing was shutting down a Monsanto operation in Maui. Now that's being challenged in the courts to overturn what the voters did. They have had the county as well as the state of Hawaii now abdicate their authority in this, turning it over to a federal court to nullify what the Maui voters said, that they did not want GMO crops destroying the neighboring crops. See, it doesn't really matter in the long run if you have labels on there, because if you don't stop the growing of the GMO crops, it's going to cross-contaminate everything anyway. So that's really, I think, where the fight is, and that's where they've had the most results. But now they're going to use a court to shut that down. Now, that's dictatorship, as John Rappaport points out in his blog. He's got an article, Federal Judge Drops Bomb in the Monsanto Maui Case. This was from the beginning of the week. And he's right to point out that this is a dictatorship. But it's going to get much harder to control that once we go to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because then they're going to have investor-state settlement tribunals. They're going to have an arbitration process. And it's going to be far worse then than it is with this. It's going to be much easier for them to do what they want. The corporations, of course, that are creating this with their lobbyists will be elevated to the status of the state, and it will be an arbitration process. And so they're going to shut it down that way as well. That's how it's going to work. Now, one more thing, and I want to go to a report. There was a good report that Rob Dew had about the recent resignation of the head of the DEA. And, of course, that is really the story, is how prohibition has corrupted our legal system, corrupted law enforcement. And, of course, it hasn't done anything that it's that's been sold to people that it's going to do. But before I go to that, you know, it really has taken us away. And this corruption of law enforcement, there was a story that Kurt Nemo had yesterday. We're not in Mayberry anymore. We really aren't. I mean, what we have now is a situation where, you know, instead of a nervous Barney Fife who always wants to overreact to everything and starts nervously loading his single bullet into his gun, now we don't have Sheriff Andy around anymore. We now have a very, very lethal Sheriff Andy who's getting his orders from the federal government. Let's go to that report. DEA head resigns. What are they not telling you?